What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode. Well, hello everyone. It's spooky season, specifically October. So we decided we were going to do the movie Silver Bullet. It's based on a Stephen King novel, The Cycle of the Wolf. And well, I hadn't seen some of my friends for a while, and the additional inspiration for this was because Betsy and I, as you might know, my co-host from Girls Goes Ghouls, we go to these events at Green Lawn Abbey in Columbus, which is actually a mausoleum, and they have an event called Movies Under the Stars, and they show various movies on the front lawn of this mausoleum, and it speaks to our spooky hearts. And most recently, they showed Silver Bullet, and when Betsy saw it, I'm like, would you like to talk about it? And she said yes. And then when John Paul and I were thinking about what do we want to do for October, I was like, well, Silver Bullet. He said yes. And he's like, you know what, we should ask Randy and the Wamsleys. I'm like, yes, because it's been far too long since we've had either the Wamsleys or Randy on. So now it's John Paul and I, Betsy White, John Wamsley, Charlene Thompson Wamsley, and Randy Woten. And we're going to discuss, as I said, Silver Bullet, which the summary is: in a small town, brutal killings start to plague the close-knit community. Marty Koslaw, a paraplegic boy, is convinced the murders are the doings of a werewolf. So with that, yeah, it's horrible. I love it.
Was this movie horrible? I don't know. I know
it's not good.
I
love this movie so much.
So like I didn't know what to expect, and I don't know if any of our listeners and watchers have seen me before, but I'm not really into horror. It's not my jam. It's his jam. It's Yin's jam. It is not my jam. Typically, if I don't like being scared, and I don't like being served. So like neither one of those options are a fun time for me. But somehow magically, this was a fun time, man. I really liked it. Like I maybe it was just like the nostalgia. I don't watch a lot of movies anyway. So when I sit down and watch something old, especially old movies, man, the last time I watched an old movie, like that was like Batteries Not Included. And that was a movie that like we talked about on the podcast, like another like killer movie. But I usually don't watch a lot of movies, especially old ones. So like when I get to see the nostalgia, the costumes, the setting, the cars, like 80s take on 70s, it was just like, oh well, look at that, look at those glasses, damn, look at those. Like, oh my gosh, look at those, look at that skirt. And I was like, I can't believe we used to wear those pantyhose. Remember that whole like big deal that like she made, like, you ruined my hose. And I was thinking, why did they ever make us wear pantyhose? Like, oh my god, like you can't even tell that you have them on. They pinch your ass, all right, like they hurt.
Roll down
why
on you.
Why were pantyhose a thing? Like, ugh, just. But nevertheless, besides the pantyhose, I like this movie, guys. I did. Like, it totally happened. Like, I liked it. It was a fun time.
Yeah, this was one of those ones that I grew up with. It wasn't until much later, like I was an adult living on my own, that I even got the book Cycle of the Werewolf. So I was well versed in what it was about. It was cool to see what was different. Stephen King wrote the screenplay. So, he wrote this, he wrote the screenplay. It really, the difference is like, it goes a little bit, it's like victim driven, little vignettes into the victims, right? And then you get to the Marty part of the story. So it's like tiny short stories involving the werewolf, and really, really, really kick-ass art by Bernie Wrightson. He's done like Swamp Thing. He's a legendary artist. Like the beginning scene where he just awesomely just bitch slaps that dude's head right off his body. Like
the first kill that was not recognized as a kill.
Yeah.
Well, this was his like the artist's interpretation. I don't know. Is that coming in clear? It's in front of my face.
It's a little blurry, but there we go. Nice.
I can see it. Yeah.
All right. That's the interpretation from the book. And there's a bunch of illustrations in here. If you got to half price books, I suggest this one. I'm sure there's a newer version out there, but this is like the first not like first edition, but like first printing with this publisher or something. I don't know.
So the book was, like you said, victim driven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Maybe
Like it starts in January, right?
Mhm.
And it ends in December. It's called The Cycle of the Werewolf. So it's like the whole.
Oh.
He only,
Yeah.
they had an hour and a half, right? This is a month.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Huh.
So it's a little bit different, but like the movie where the pregnant woman tries to kill herself pill by pill.
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, why don't you just do this thing? Like,
You
let's
should
Yeah.
just toss the whole
end
bottle
it.
back, honey. Commit.
Right. It was like ultimately it didn't matter.
I mean,
She was kind of like popping him like Tums. And like that first kill scene was hilarious. I wrote down heads flying, exclamation point. Like that shit was funny. And what was that? That was the coach from Major League.
Yeah.
Right? Like that recognizable voice, even though like he had the chops and he didn't have the mustache and he was considerably like younger. Not considerably younger, but a little bit younger.
It was with
85?
he was minus the mustache.
Yeah, 80. It was 85.
Like, that
but
was
with
what
Major
made
League,
him look way
87, 88.
different.
So he was like
Something like
a
that.
little bit younger, like a smidge
Yeah.
younger, but like those chops. But that voice is so recognizable.
So
and I was
distinct.
like, yeah, and I was just like, oh, that's Coach. That's Coach from Major
Yeah.
League. And because like John, he knows all the trivia, he knows all the actors and stuff like from this era. He knows everybody's
I don't
name
remember
and
his
stuff,
name,
like,
but I
like a
know
fucking
who it
savant.
is.
And like we're looking at the names come on the credits, and like he said like some name.
Terry O'Quinn.
Terry O'Quinn, like whoever that is. All right.
Yeah,
I
from
looked him up.
Lost.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
Whoever
like,
that
and
is.
he's like he's a well-known guy. And then when I saw like Coach from Major League, and I was like, is that dude you referenced? He was like, no. And then you gave me the coach's name, and I was like, yeah, I don't know shit about him.
I never remember that guy's
Had
name.
to
Look
look
him up. But let me interrupt you. So, like, this was your first time watching it, Char, but also Betsy, was the first time you saw it was at Green Lawn Abbey as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever seen it too.
Oh, first timers. Awesome. I want to hear
Which
all
is
about it.
hilarious. I don't know how I missed this. My sister was super into horror when I was younger, and she would watch everything. So I had seen a lot of like 80s like horror-ish. I'm like, how did we skip this? I even talked to her about it today, and she's like, I've never seen it. So I'm
Wow.
like, okay. So we don't know how I missed it. And then I'm also like, as I've gotten older, I've gone back to rewatch things that I watched when I was so young that I don't really remember them very well. I don't know how this one has completely missed me, because I will watch pretty much anything and it skipped me entirely. I have no idea. But man, this was hilarious. Like maybe one of the funniest horror movies I've ever seen.
Oh, sweet. I'm so glad I wasn't the only person that thought it was funny. Like I had
Oh,
a,
it
I
is
had a
funny.
good time. It was
I laughed
funny,
at every death, and that is so rude.
Oh, wait. Okay, all right, sweet. Like, because that's told, I was like, ha on every single one. And that's
It's the same
typically
thing.
how I am when I watch horror anyway. Like it's cheesy. A lot of it's cheesy to me. So like, it's just like not my jam, but like, I had a good time laughing at this one. It was funny. Like
It's an awesome
there were so many
movie.
funny moments in it. Like there just were. Like
Oh,
all
absolutely.
those death scenes were so funny. Like
Oh.
every single that head flying starting off like that.
Love it.
Hilarious.
Yeah. It's that's the grabber.
All the nostalgia and stuff. So like
oh,
Betsy, you
shit.
seem like you're around like our age and stuff too. So like I'm surprised because I don't watch horror, but like I remember this stuff like growing up, like I'm an HBO kid, I'm a cable kid, and my mom really liked horror a whole bunch. She would watch this kind of stuff and like I would get sucked into it, but it just wasn't my jam. I never even
Right,
heard of
right.
this movie. Like I never even heard of it. And she was a Stephen King fan too. I never saw her watching it. I never saw her read it. I never heard of it. All the
No.
Stephen King people around me, this was completely under the radar for me. Like I had no idea about this movie existing.
Exactly
That's
the same.
so
I'm like,
cool.
I don't know how in the world of like I even read Stephen King, and this one went
Yeah.
past me. I'm like, how did I miss out on all of this?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I
like,
can
and
tell
it
you
hasn't been like
how.
old.
I was gonna say,
What-
yeah.
But like how? But for real, like it wasn't an HBO like kind of pumper. It wasn't a cable. But you watched it. You said growing
It
up.
was on TV like
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
lot. Like
I
local
could-
channel Saturday afternoon
Midday
movie.
Saturdays. Yep.
Oh
Okay.
heck yeah,
Yeah.
super host and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, midday Saturday shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
Okay.
Meatballs 2 Day. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it was maybe that and
Saturday the
Meatballs
14th, yeah.
Okay.
that was
Okay.
fucking
Well,
awesome.
allow me to explain
Saturday.
why
If it was
most
that
people have
day.
never heard of this movie. It tanked, and it in a lot of people's eyes, it's a terrible movie.
I love it. I don't
Like,
care. I will.
I guess
even
it was
watching it,
whack.
even watching it, rewatching it now, because it's been a while for me, and I watched it with my wife, and she enjoyed it because of the cheese of it all.
Yeah.
But again, this was supposed to be a scary horror movie
Nah.
written by Stephen King, screenplay by Stephen King. Let me tell you, the dialogue and the way this movie is written is hot garbage. There's my
Oh.
take.
I still
There's my
enjoyed
take
it.
on it. It is still it is cheesy, fun, and enjoyable. But I was talking to Randy earlier today, and I said, okay, let's think of like 80s, coming of age movies that Stephen King's done. Stand By Me. All right. That's a banger. What else did he do that was coming of age?
Miniseries.
It miniseries, banger,
Yeah,
all of
amazing.
that, right? This, you're just like, what? What is happening here? And
How dare you talk about this movie, you booger? Remember,
Yeah.
she called her
Right.
brother a booger like a couple of times.
A
That was,
couple
that
times.
was 76
Bugger.
slang.
A
Okay,
booger.
and then let me say this. Okay, so we get a narration in this movie.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Much like
Who
we
is
do
she
in
narrating
Silver.
to? Tell me
Yeah.
that.
Older.
They did that too in Stand By Me. You had a narrator.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you
but
knew why he was narrating. He was writing a
He was
book
writing.
with his thoughts inside of his head.
Right.
Yeah,
I was gonna
like,
say
the-
it failed
the
here because
narrator
they didn't
was
explain. Like, was
super
she an
out of place.
author? Is she telling a story to her grandkid? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
We have
She's
no
narrating.
clue who this story is being told to in this movie at all.
I like to think it's being told to Marty's caretaker as he's in an old folks home.
But the voice is the sister,
what
right?
happened
So
to
like
this guy?
she's
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's
it's a
talking
sister.
about something that happened to her like as she's older, like back in time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it just seemed like
Mm.
they really had a tough time translating this book to film. The
Yeah.
scene cuts from cut to cut, like from scene to scene, clunky as hell. Oh my
It'd be a
god.
really good mini
Like
series.
they were like it would be
Yes.
like a hilarious death scene and then like cut to something like completely different, like Marty like going down the road, and like the way that it was edited, just like for the scene to scene cuts were super duper clunky. And like when you said that like the book was like victim driven, it seems like they had a problem like taking out like that perspective of it being like victim driven
Mhm.
in the book and then like making those same scene cuts and making it work for film, and it just ended up being like clunky. But like those clunky scene cuts were kind of like why it was funny, you know? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh
Right.
shit, now we're just going down the road. Like what was even happening before? And I was like, this
That-
was wild. You know?
And the worst werewolf costume ever. Like this is it's so bad. Like even like producer Dino De Laurentiis, I believe it was.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
like, nope. They had to fight with him to get this as the werewolf. And they fought for this as the werewolf for reasons unknown.
But
It
that's
was
Dino.
so bad.
Yeah.
If we can go into any history of Dino, the man who did Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
and
oh,
the
This was a bad werewolf costume.
Yeah,
fun.
I agree.
Oh.
Dino
But
Dino's
it sucked.
mental when it comes
But
to
he
things.
knew this sucked.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
100%. I mean,
Interesting.
and
Mhm.
again, the random like character actors that you see in this movie, because later on they've done something else that you've seen them, or even when they did like TV shows like Opie, was
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith. There's a couple people from Andy Griffith in this movie. There's a couple people from a couple other stuff in
Twin
like
Peaks.
50s, Twin Peaks, 50s and 60s. Locke
yeah.
from Lost that everybody loves, you know,
Yeah.
or The Stepfather, one of my
The
favorite
stepfather. Yeah.
one of the favorite horror movies of the 80s.
Terry O'Quinn.
There you go, Terry O'Quinn. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd how, like, again, if you were to watch it then, you'd be like, no, this movie sucks, it's boring. You watch it now, and it's just a cheese ball fest of a movie.
Good time.
I
I mean,
love that cheese.
especially which and I have to bring it up because I absolutely love what I call 80s sitcom music. The music in this was
Oh yeah.
it was straight out of like, hey, let's play some songs from Growing Pains.
Yeah.
Just slapped them into here.
Yeah, he's riding on a
It was-
motorcycle.
Right. The silly parts were silly, but like I dug the horror, the parts that I like the scary music that came out of it though.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked that when it was supposed to be tense. I remember I saw this when I was little. You know, like not long after it came out, like probably like in '89 or something.
Scary music is your jam.
Oh yeah, but like this was scary to me when I was little.
Right.
And and I was watching it with Scarlett before tonight.
So like, is this a kids movie?
See,
That's
that's
the
It's
all.
problem.
like
It's
a
not.
kids movie.
It's a rated R movie.
Yeah,
It
it's
came
rated
out.
R.
It was supposed to be hard
But
R.
like,
Ugh.
but like,
But
is it
now-
a kids movie though?
Legit, it's Monster Squad
Wait,
Plus.
wait,
You're right.
Exactly.
wait. This was a hard R.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they
fun
dropped the
life.
F-bomb in it a bunch of times.
There's no language. There's none
Yeah.
of that. Like,
Yeah, she
What?
calls him a booger several times, and then in the next scene, the guy's going, "Hey, fuck you," you know, to like.
wait, I don't remember no
So-
fucks going on in there. I remember zero fucks happening. Like,
There was the one
Yeah.
with the
Oh, the
sheriff when he
sheriff.
hangs
The
up, where he
sheriff.
goes, "Fuck you too,"
Yeah.
and he hangs up.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
This is like PG-13.
like, see, the fucks
I
just
feel
go
like
over
it's
my
really-
head. Like, I can't even like I'm not phased at all. Like
and
I
the
didn't
fat
even-
the heavy deputy guy, he actually says something to him. He says it right back. He's just like, "Yeah, you probably
yeah,
should
they
have
say
said
it, like,
fuck you
twice
to
in that.
this."
Oh no shit! I
They
did
say-
not absorb
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Oh my god! I
and
did not
again-
absorb that at all.
again,
Because I was like, no language.
Looking at this now, yeah, this movie's probably PG-13 now.
Now,
No, yeah.
This movie,
Easy.
this probably can be shown on regular TV with
Oh,
maybe
yeah. I'm
with
sure.
maybe
Absolutely.
a small
was,
amount
yeah.
of cuts. Because now you can say fuck on TV, on cable at least.
John, I remember
Yeah.
watching it on TV like you did, and I'm pretty sure almost everything was in it except for the language and the maybe the head part at the beginning. But everything from the
yeah.
bat being like covered in blood, I remember all that vividly because I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
get to
that
see
wasn't.
this, yeah,
And
uncut
you know what?
until later. So
They edited Terry O'Quinn getting bashed
yeah,
because that was
that's pretty
kinda
graphic.
brutal,
It was
actually.
graphic.
Yeah,
That was pretty.
my
that was
God.
actually a pretty brutal.
I'm so.
I mean, even though like not
desensitized.
Fulci brutal, but like it was a really
For
good
that
effect.
time, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think they
like
spent
it.
all their money on that effect.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Probably. But
That
let's
and-
Dude,
and the
in
werewolf-
that kind of bear suit and go.
Yeah. Well, the werewolf at the end, where the hair goes back into him, that probably cost a pretty penny to do.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Those
sure.
two moments
That was a good
made it
effect.
so that
no,
when
they
he
just
attacked the
probably got
pregnant
Robin
woman-
Williams to pose naked for that scene.
I was thinking about that effect, like what did they do to make that hair thing happen in reverse? You know what I mean? Like it looks like some like growing in
pulled
reverse. Okay, like
Yeah.
They
all
pulled
right.
it from like underneath.
And
to
then they
make
play
it
it
and then-
reversed.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was looking
It-
for the skin to kind of like be like, you know, like looking like it was getting pulled from inside. And to me, it didn't look
It's
like
reverse
that.
photography.
Yeah. Like, but I thought like that was like a pretty like
I mean,
decent effect.
That's a pretty cool scene too, you know, as a kid too. Like, I mean, from our time period, I mean, kids today, shit, they could turn the news on and see way worse stuff than this. you
Yeah,
know?
like I was literally thinking that like I'm
Yeah.
desensitized from just like living in America.
Oh yeah.
All right, like
Scarlett laughed.
Like-
I was watching this with Scarlett before the podcast, and she laughed at the head scene. I was like, "Wasn't that sweet?"
I mean, it's
She's
so
like,
funny.
"Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
awesome."
it's so funny.
You
How
know,
can
it
you
was
not?
like we were both like laughing.
it's
at
so
it,
hilarious.
You know?
It's the funniest.
But this is I do really enjoy this movie. Corey Haim was awesome. I love.
He was such a child. I was shocked to see him so young.
It just
I
it's just
Yeah.
like
I don't think I've seen him in a
he was
movie
so good.
like at this age. Like the first time I remember Corey Haim was
Lucas.
Lucas. Like that
Yeah.
was
Lucas,
that was
yeah.
the first time I remember seeing him. So like he's younger in this, and I was like, holy shit, Corey Haim is a child. Like in this, like I had to ask what year it was, and he confirmed it was 85, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like he is. This is
Yeah.
definitely the youngest I've seen him in any role.
And I have to
Yeah.
say, like, it really highlighted that Corey Haim was an excellent actor. And like, if all that trauma
Right?
didn't happen to him, who he could have
Right?
been and how he could have been would have been something
guy.
phenomenal. Because him
Right,
and Megan
yeah.
Follows are the standouts of this movie. I mean, they are
I
fabulous.
mean, his acting is really
Yeah.
good. Like what he's doing with his legs, like it's
Mhm.
believable. And like,
Mhm.
let's talk about
Yeah.
him being a paraplegic,
Right, the
or
climbing.
whatever he was, like a cripple. He seemed like he was handling his life. All of the adults around him were like, just
Yeah.
you see, he's crippled.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Talk
Pointed
about
out
him
all
like
the
that.
damn time.
You better leave him alone. Don't say anything. He's crippled. Like they were making such a big deal about it. And like he just seemed like he was just fine. Like he was getting along just fine. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were like making like a really, really big deal about Gary Busey. All right. OG face Gary Busey. All right. Like
Yeah.
pre
Yeah.
fucking motorcycle. OG face Gary Busey. all right, giving us real faces and shit, giving us some
Yeah.
chops
Yeah.
on that stuff, all right, with the drunkenness and stuff. Like that was enjoyable to see OG Busey face. I ain't seen that in a hot minute.
Mhm.
I
And, like,
feel like they just told
decent.
Gary Busey, listen, just show up, drink a little, say some lines.
Oh
and get
yeah,
out."
oh yeah. I was just happy to see his OG
I
face.
enjoyed his
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah,
I thought it was awesome.
But I definitely didn't feel like he was acting. You know what I mean? But I did enjoy the
No, I felt like it was
pulled it
Gary
off.
Busey actually making a motorcycle wheelchair for his nephew.
That's
That's so
that's
He's
what
like,
it
yeah, I'll
felt
stop
like.
by and make it. I don't care.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
oh, with no seatbelt. Char pointed that out.
Right, no seatbelt, no
Yeah,
helmet.
you don't
Yeah,
need
No helmet.
I wrote down, fuck a
I
seatbelt,
never
zoom
thought
zoom.
Yeah.
Because of the time, it's like, well, there was no seatbelts for kids anyway.
Yeah, fuck that seatbelt,
Yeah.
zoom zoom.
I
All right?
I
Like,
was
what are you gonna do? Go out and wreck and get crippled? You're already
Yeah.
crippled, boy.
Yeah,
Come here, have fun,
What, you
ball.
gonna get
Have fun.
more crippled? What?
But explain to me then how the parents can sleep through him sneaking out and going.
I was saying.
I can
I
explain
was like,
it.
there ain't no way in hell
Valium.
he would have
Yeah,
Valium.
probably.
Yeah.
That woman-
They
I
were taking the blue
sprung.
pills at that house
Yeah.
as opposed to the
Wait,
red
was
pills
that
at the beginning.
was that implied or like of the times, or did I miss something in the movie? Like,
No,
were
no,
there
no,
pills?
No,
Like,
that's just me saying
That's
that
just what
people
we're
in that time
saying.
period were
Oh,
taking
oh.
Valium
That's
like
how
it
they
was
slept
candy.
through the.
So-
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so
Oh.
actually, to be fair, so it's set in 76. The kid is a cripple. Parents are a little more hands off in the day. And I'm pretty sure when they heard a motorcycle sound start, they were not thinking that their paraplegic son climbed out the window and went onto the thing because they're
But
thinking he
I'm
can't.
sorry.
Think about the
It
mom's
was
view
the
of it.
proximity. To me, it was the proximity. It was right on the house. Like it was right
It
on
was
the. It was
right
right
there.
on the
It's
house.
stupid, but trust me,
Now,
being a child of
unless
the
he
80s and as
wheeled
often as I
himself
snuck out the house
out.
not being a paraplegic, parents don't fucking care. Like,
Yeah.
they'll be fine.
Unless-
It's okay. There's a
unless-
psycho killer out. Whatever. It's not my kid out there.
Yeah, that's true too.
We've all snuck out of our house once or twice in our lifetime. I guarantee it.
I never
There's
did.
no way we're
Did you do
doing
it when
it.
there was a psycho killer on the loose, though?
Yeah.
All right, everybody was telling you to
I
be
grew up in
shut
the
in.
80s in the Youngstown, so there was always a psycho.
I used to just tell my parents, hey, I'm
Hear
going
that.
out later.
I hear
I was
that.
like, all right, I'm gonna go play video games. Good night. Ka-chink.
Yeah, my dad knew I was too much of a nerd to get in any sort of trouble. He's like, what are you going to go do? Play your video games with your friends? You know,
Vidya.
so-
Vidya games.
Video
Vidya games.
games.
I'm excited to watch old movies for just like the pure nostalgia alone. Like I was talking about the costumes and the cars and like the wholesomeness that the 80 gives. And what is this up? This is always like Maine, New Hampshire,
Yeah.
It's
like
definitely
right,
New
right,
England.
like New England bullshit going
Yeah,
on.
it's Stephen King, so it's somewhere in New England.
So it's
Yeah,
New
they
England,
never
yeah,
give
yeah.
a
Like,
state.
so like off like New England vibes, like hella thick New England vibes, and then like we're talking about like a 1976 like throwback vibe on top of that. And they're like when everybody in the town cared about everybody else as much as they cared about themselves, and they paint that little nostalgia
Yeah.
picture of
With
everybody
the exception of
partying in
that's
the
not
town.
my baby.
Right,
Yeah.
and the potluck and the marching band and I
Yeah.
really appreciated all the plastic on the food on the potluck so the flies didn't get in it. I was like,
Because
thank
they
you.
even had showed a
Because-
fly.
because
Not,
there were actual
Yeah.
flies there, and I was like, thank you, plastic, thank you for making it real. People thought about it. Like, put the plastic on the goddamn food, paint a picture, make it real.
yeah, that made it
Yeah.
real.
appreciate
Can we
it.
talk also?
Though,
I
because if they
mean,
put a sign in the window after the murders really take up and you have them selling single action or double action shotguns.
Yeah, right.
In case you didn't know, there's no such thing as a double action shotgun.
Yeah.
I thought they
The
were
double
fabricating
barreled,
some
yeah,
New
double
England
action.
bullshit back there. You know, I was like, oh, double action.
I want to also give a shout out to midway through the movie when things are at the height, people like those 5 people got killed, that they're doing like an overview of the town where they're showing like everybody's batting down the hatches. There's one guy with all his shit piled up leaving the town.
He's
town.
like,
I'm like,
fuck
that's
this.
And
my
then there's
dude right
no
there.
cars anywhere.
I am out of here.
Well,
You
because there
know?
was a
Yeah.
curfew. They even put that on the radio. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, they've
Don't
imposed the
leave.
curfew, and they're like, fuck this. But my favorite scene after that is how pissed Corey gets. It's like, I didn't get my goddamn fireworks.
Right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all he gave. I want my fireworks.
All I wanted was to see some fireworks.
I want to talk about the vigilante scene in the bar when everybody collectively decides like we're gonna go
Private
get
justice.
that motherfucker. All right,
Private
let's talk-
justice.
private justice.
Private
So
justice time.
for a while, maybe like 2/3 of the movie until like the silver bullet thing came and like the wheelchair, and then like it was a werewolf and the silver bullet all tied in together. I thought that this movie should have been called Private Justice. All right, like because it was such a big like thing with it, all right, and like that like vigilante versus like the law kind of play. And then like when the boy's dad that got killed, Bald McConaughey, he comes in and gives that like little like teary performance and stuff. And like yeah, but it was Bald McConaughey. All right, Bald McConaughey came in and like made everybody teary eyed and like wanted like to get everybody with the guns, like let's go ahead and do it. And like he rallied the troops and like made it happen. All right, and then like they go sneaking off into wherever they're going to go look for like the killer. And then like it's a whole bar full of like white dudes with guns and like one black motherfucker. And I was just like, where is he going? Why is he going with these people? Like,
Right.
like what doesn't everybody knows you're not going into the woods with white people with guns. Like this is the most like unrealistic shit I've ever seen. Like there's one black man here. Like there would be no way
like
this
a
is
lynch
happening.
mob.
There were at
That
least
guy
two.
still goes.
He
Yeah.
still goes. He goes into the most fucked up part too with him, and I was like, "This is crazy! Like
Right.
I cannot believe that this is happening. Like this is a setup. Like everybody knows. You do not.
Yeah.
As a
Like
person
you
of
think he
color,
would have been sitting there like, you guys, good
Private
luck.
justice.
You know?
I'll be joining you in a minute. See ya. Have fun storming the castle. Yeah, no.
Yeah, right. Oh, and why in the world? Like, why did that guy, like the dad, he was like, the Paul McConaughey, he's like, go dig my son up. And I'm like,
Yes!
whoa, we get it. Dude, your kid died. You said it 5 times. Like, there's no need to get that graphic with it.
What
Well,
You
'cause-
know?
no.
That is
I can tell you why you got that
actually
graphic. Because
Yeah.
from the cop says, no, don't go over there. And he goes and lifts the kite and he's like, yeah, that's my son. I'm like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? His face though, this acting, because that's what got me was that guy more than anything else.
He made
He goes to Zach.
spot.
Yeah.
that scream was so much. And
Oh,
then,
it was so good.
and then in the bar scene, after he does his whole like his monologue and like rouse up the troops to go ahead and go get that private justice pumping. I wrote down Bald McConaughey is a bummer.
Honestly, that guy was in a totally different movie than everybody else. I'm like,
Right.
No, his look, the way that he acted, it was melodrama realness. Like I felt like I was like automatically transported to like Young and the Restless, like melodrama. It was very different vibes than the whole rest of the movie. Like
This is the problem with this
different
movie.
vibes. Like
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he totally
As an
brought it.
adult,
like-
as watching it again, I hadn't seen it in like 10 years. When I watched it with a buddy of mine, projector, we had a good night, but it's always been one of my favorites as a kid. But the older I get, yeah, you see this shining through. The tone they're all over the place. They didn't know how to market it. I think do we market it to
was
kids?
all over the place.
Is it a horror film? Is it a drama? I mean, what? Yeah, it's just like.
I think if you're reading the book and you're interpreting it in your head yourself, you can kind of like place the tone yourself because like you're the inner voice, like you're the monologue when you're reading the book. And
Yeah.
again, I just feel that they had a really hard time translating that tone from the book into film, and it occurred like
Right.
over and over and over again, like from scene to scene to scene until like we get to basically like the third act. Like once the third act happens, then like it kind of like gets rolling, like when they switch scenes. But the first
Right.
2 acts, they really struggled with the tone, and I really do think that was just a translation issue from like the way that the book was conveyed and then the way that they were trying to put it on film, and it didn't roll out, and it made it cheesy. It made
Yeah.
it cheesy. Like
I think
funny.
John hit the
Char?
nail on the head. It needs to be a mini series like on Netflix, like 8 episodes.
Get
The first
Flanagan
half
on the
needs to
line.
just be from the perspective, like you're talking about, each like
the
like
book, like the
hour
book.
long.
Each
Yeah,
episode is a month.
Yeah, like the
then
book.
there it is.
Each episode
Yeah.
focuses on a
Like
victim.
Marty doesn't even come into it until like almost halfway through.
Actually, you know
Right.
what? The more I think about that, and like I didn't read the book, but like the way that you're telling me how it's set up, like it like victim to victim, this would actually be like a sweet miniseries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like month to month. and
yeah,
each
it really
month is a victim.
would, because like you would probably like really get attached to a character and then like they end up dying, and like that kind of seems to be like very in vogue right
Mhm.
now, like with like Game of
Right.
Thrones, all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like this piece of property probably could be a moneymaker if it was done right, like the way that
Oh
the,
yeah,
way,
there's
the way
so
that
much
the book
they could
was.
do.
and like extend it and like extend the story, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like put some actual like cheese on it and make it good.
Ju-
It probably could
Just
be
give me one
a
of the
good,
wolves from Dog Soldiers.
a good mini series to like
Yeah.
to exploit,
There it
you know,
is.
like
But
like,
Char,
people had already
I'm
did.
gonna counter your point only because I want to play devil's advocate.
Oh,
I
This-
like that. That's usually
I-
me. I like that.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
This
Give it to me,
this
baby. Give it
this
to me.
book was written by Stephen King.
Hmm.
Mhm.
This screenplay was written by Stephen King. You
Yeah, but,
would
like, he had
think he
mad
could
drugs.
you think he would
True,
translate
probably
his
was still his
own.
coke era.
Oh,
Yeah,
come
but
on.
Yeah.
again, I feel like if I saw the screenplay that like he probably didn't do a very good job in translating that
Yeah.
idea to actually be portrayed onto film. Like just
Right.
because you wrote the original story doesn't
Right.
mean that you have the ability to make it come to life in a small amount of time, condense that
Right.
like story and make
Mm.
it like the same, make it flow the same and give it the same vibes, give it the same texture that you have in the book. Like that takes a special skill set. And just because he's the original writer doesn't mean that he could do that. You know, like
And let's say
somebody
he
that
did.
apt to
Let's-
do that could do
Yeah,
it.
let's say he
Right.
did. It
Let's say
would
he
be a
did.
hell of a
Let's
lot
say he
better
turned that in.
movie.
He didn't direct it. He didn't produce it. So I mean, maybe he has like a co-producer credit or something where
Yeah,
he's
there's
getting
still
money.
gaps. There's
Right.
still gaps
So-
like in the way that you get to the final
Yeah.
product. Like there's
Somebody
still
might have took
gaps
it
there.
and yeah, exactly, and just made it how they interpreted it. You know.
I think
Yeah.
I think this property could be like something a lot bigger. Like
Yeah.
even though I enjoyed it the way that it was, but like there is something here that you could make it extended. It could be even like Stranger Things vibes, like make
Yeah.
your audience get attached to each person that dies and then you kill them off. You know what I'm saying? Like people really
Oh,
like
that'd
that.
be so sweet.
Like people really like
Yeah.
that right now. And I,
Yeah.
I feel like they
Just
could
at
make
the-
something
And then
bigger.
finally find out who she's narrating to. That's what I
Yeah.
want to know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
Let's-
no, there's no.
I was
There
gonna say,
won't be any.
There wouldn't be any
get rid of-
Real quick though, Betsy,
Narrator.
you look
We're
like
gonna
you
get
wanted to
rid
say
of
something. You
narrator.
didn't get a chance, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry, but
No, I was just gonna say, I think that part of this also is that they never established time in this film. As far
Yeah.
as I was
Yes,
concerned,
good point.
it could have been one weekend that everybody was murdered.
Yo, and like that's such a good point because the only thing she says about time, like she literally says a line as the narrator as these events that terrorized our town for so long. That's all she says. Like for so long is the time, and I was just like, how long is for so long? Like what's been popping? Like that's a fucking good point. Like for real, because I was literally thinking like, well, how long of a space is this occurring in? Like, is this a weekend? Is this 2 months? Is this a season? Like for so long is the only way they defined it.
I wish that they had really established, like, shown them like opening Christmas presents, so we knew that
I like that.
there was like any kind of a time here. Because the way it
was
felt,
hard.
I'm like, how long has this been? You have given me nothing to go on this. And I think that was part of it as well, because he's getting older, they're doing this, you know, the town's becoming more and more paranoid, but we're not seeing any of that because it's like, again, that goes into the where it doesn't cut well, because they lost a lot of plot.
Yeah. That the timeline is like up in the air. It is like, huh? You know, like for so long is that's legit.
Yeah.
Like the
Well,
way that they described
They
it for
said
so
that, but
long.
then you see the kids getting out of school, so that's like what, June, and then
How do I see the kids getting out of school?
I tell you, like the last they do make a
it-
mention of like this was the last day
right
of school.
before he
Oh,
drives the little girl home.
I thought it was just like I don't know. I
But-
took that as like school was done that day.
But to that
Like,
point,
yeah,
like
that's
after
exactly-
they do that, it doesn't really clearly denote like a passing of a month or another
absolutely
month.
not. It doesn't.
But they
Like,
do
and like
give
and that
you
was
that,
like
that
oh,
happened,
like,
and then
what-
you kind of feel like maybe you're getting the 4th of July, and then suddenly
Yes,
maybe you're in
yes.
September, but it's really not distinctly put forth, and you
I
feel
didn't,
no
Right,
ga-
they
I
evolution.
didn't
don't-
gather
they
it.
don't go out
I
of
didn't
their
gather
way-
it at all.
They
Like,
don't go out of their way to tell you when it is. It's like
Nope.
Gary Busey says, you're gonna have 4th of July, but in September.
Yeah, like,
That's
like
like
real
shoots 'em in the
briefly,
eye.
and you're like, but you already forgot that this started in June by then, because it's like, so,
I know,
Right,
that's
because you don't
true,
get you
too.
don't even get like leaves changing or
No.
anything like
no.
that.
Yeah,
Which,
you
again-
don't see that.
Again,
Yeah.
in New England, that would be the easiest thing to do.
yeah,
If you're in a New England
though,
town,
they shot this movie in like 2 months. Like I
Yeah.
think
What
they started
season
shooting
is
in October and they
Booger?
ended like right before Christmas.
You
So I mean that might be part of it.
What season is it, you bugger?
But yeah,
So
I'm bringing that. I'm bringing that
Weird
shit back.
timing thing.
let me pose this question to the newbies, and then I'll ask the ones that hadn't seen it in a while. Did the twist get you?
there was a
No.
twist.
Wait. Hold
Who
on.
the werewolf
So-
was?
Okay. See, I was gonna say, it's like, was the twist who the werewolf was? Because it did get me. I was like, oh shit, this is a real werewolf, like a motherfucker that goes from human to werewolf. I thought it was just like wolf man, random werewolf, like not like so entrenched in like standard werewolf lore where like it's a wolf man that changes back and forth. I just kind of thought it was just like a wolf man monster out there. And then it was somebody that changed back and forth, and then it was the actual preacher. I was like, oh shit, I was totally in there. Like, remember I said it last. Remember we was watching it. I was
Okay,
like,
Betsy, what's your thought?
I'm sorry.
Didn't get me because they make a point of going, this preacher is brand new. And then all this stuff started to happen.
oh.
And then he was like, don't go hunt the werewolf.
Yeah.
So like I took that as like him being a preacher and just like no violence, you know what I mean? Like no violence, just be good, be kind, like preacher kind of bullshit is the way that I took it. And I mean it got me like
Also,
level
He
10
was
got
the
me.
only.
I was like, oh shit, it's the preacher.
I mean, so that dude just looks like a bad guy, but
He does have bad guy
here
face.
was how he was portrayed in the book. Like a very
So,
I mean, it
Oh,
still
yeah.
looks like an obvious bad guy to me though.
Can I
I
see?
can see his
That
Yeah,
was
the eye
absolutely
patch is
fire.
what makes
he
it
has
bad.
to be bad if he has
But,
an eye
but,
patch.
but here's the thing. So my wife had never seen it, so we watched it the first time, and she
I
goes,
didn't even know this
she,
book
she
was in
said
the
she
house.
said the priest is the werewolf in this, and I go, why do you say that? She goes, she just had a bad dream about a whole bunch of wolves.
There was
Right?
that too,
Yeah.
which
I
is
thought-
classic in werewolf
Oh,
movies.
I love that scene so much. That scene
That is a hilarious
great.
scene though, because I love the fact that you have all the caskets just
Oh, I wrote that
lined up
down.
in a row.
Oh my god, I
Like a
totally
mass funeral.
I totally
Yeah.
wrote that down. Like where, oh my god,
Amazing grace.
that cut is hilarious.
all there.
Like,
I'll tell you what, white people church is
Oh
the
my
worst.
God.
I'm sorry to tell you all this, but they do actually like, especially if you're Catholic, that is how they sing in there, and it's awful. And they do the whole
Amazing
sway back and
grace.
forth.
Oh, yeah,
It's the worst.
Droney.
I,
I'll be
I
honest,
literally wrote down huge monster kill scene, hard cut to a line of caskets. Hilarious.
The line of caskets also reminded me of Heathers, where they have like this guy
Yes.
dead gay son. That's horrible.
No, Betsy, I was
That's
thinking the
vibe.
same thing. Yes.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. Like I didn't think that at the time, but fuck yeah, that is Heather's vibe. Oh my god, I love this movie. This movie was
Truly loved it. I'm like,
not my shit. I will watch
did
this
I understand
movie
it?
again.
no. Do I love it? Yeah, I sure do.
Right on.
I love that they let Gary Busey walk on set and just say whatever the hell he wanted because none of that was scripted.
You know that wild turkey was real too. Like that
Oh,
was
yeah.
definitely like not some brown ass apple juice in there. Like
Nope.
that was some real shit in
Probably.
there.
My
Like
fa-
I said, I enjoyed his performance. Like I
loved it.
Me too.
He was
My
great
favorite
with
thing he
Mark.
says is after he yells at his sister about how terrible of a parent she is, and she storms out of the room, he goes, "Another wonderful day at my sister's house."
Yeah, yep.
No, I think my
That's
favorite, I'm
awesome.
probably misquoting it, but is after Marty and his sister try to tell him about the werewolf, and he says something along the lines, "I'm too old to be playing Hardy Boy goes after Reverend Werewolf" or something.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
something like
great.
that.
Yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
that one
Good.
so much.
Yes,
If,
that
it,
was
if not
yeah,
right
that
on the money,
that was it. And I,
you're like real close.
and
if
I was
not
and I was
right.
just like, oh Busey, you son of a
Sweet
bitch.
Jesus, hallelujah.
Yeah.
But like yes,
The bank
I-
robbers are surfers.
Yeah.
got me. And I wrote that down too. I was really shocked the preacher was the damn werewolf.
Evil, and there was the nightmare. So like I don't recall for sure if I didn't catch it when I watched it when I was little, but it seems real obvious to me. Like
Yeah.
but also the problem is Everett McGill. I mean, like
I
he's
was
always
giving
a
it
bad
too
guy.
credit.
Like has
People
he
on
played
them stairs.
anything
Always,
he
he
wasn't?
is a bad.
I
Look at that
I
guy.
didn't know
He's
that I didn't know
bad
that
guy.
motherfucker. And again, like I was just giving it too much credit. I really was. I thought that they were being a little bit slicker about it, and I gave them like way too much credit, but it was blatantly obvious. But I thought that they were giving me some kind of
It-
like
Red
slicker,
herring shit.
And
slicker,
didn't
like red herring, like Deadwood vibes. All right, you know,
Oh,
like playing
yeah.
the
It's definitely this
anti-hero
guy.
kind
Just
of
kidding, it's
thing.
him. Yeah.
I thought it was anti-hero-ish at first, especially like that hard cut to those fucking caskets was so funny, and then like there he was. Not just some of the like looks and stuff, the way that he played it, like he played it off for me, man, like a little bit. Like I gave them too much credit, but looking back, it was glaringly obvious. But I thought they were slicker than what they actually were, and that movie was better than actually what it was, and it wasn't.
John, do you have a sister? Do you
Do
have
I
a
have?
sister?
No, I'm an only child.
Your only child? I have a sister, and I had friends that used to torment my sister like his buddy did. So I used to always
do
think
such
that
a
was
thing.
really funny because we did the same shit to my sister all the time.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Okay, okay.
But looking
First of all,
back, it's
that
like,
kid
oh,
Barry, I was happy he got torn up by the werewolf. I thought he
so
was
was
Oh.
Scarlet.
I was
Scarlet
not
was
sad.
He got tore up. Yeah,
Interesting.
I kind of was too.
I thought that Marty was like, I thought that he was just like, come on, Barry, don't give her a hard time. Like, and like, she was just like,
Brady,
whatever
Brady,
the fuck
Brady.
his name
Brady,
is.
sorry,
like,
I was saying it's Brady.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's a
whatever,
douche.
whatever. He was.
Hey,
a
I'm
bit
gonna
douchey.
fly my fucking kite. While
Kite.
there's
There it is.
people get
There-
ripped to
But
shreds.
she's
Yeah.
like,
That was
I'm gonna
book.
fly my
That was
kite.
the book, and that was 1976. So that must have been kite flying. Must have been the shit.
I thought that she was a
Yeah.
little bit
I looked at-
insufferable because, like, it seemed to me that like Marty really was giving a performance like, this is not my fault. Like everybody around me is just giving me these extra ups because like I'm a cripple. Like I'm not trying to like just diss you, sis. This is just the way the cookie crumbles, and like she was just like, Marty, everything sucks because of you.
Yeah,
And
she
my
was.
whole life is ass because of you and you
Yeah.
being a cripple. And everybody's just gonna side with you.
She
And I
was
had to take
definitely like
care
her
of it.
mom.
She was insufferable, and I was just like, "Damn, bitch! Like, can you see that? Like, all of these adults around him are whack
$2
as
for
fuck.
hose.
Like,
Go.
like they are
Leave
whack
me
as fuck."
alone.
Yeah, I was like, and if it was really that a problem, you should have been like, "All right, give me the $1.86 or whatever the fuck it was for the hose, and give me an extra 10 for my skirt because my skirt actually got more fucked up than these pantyhose in the mud. So go get me another 10, and we're cool. All right."
To be fair though, the narrator version of her understood that it wasn't really her brother, it was the adults and the way they did it. But of course, her as a
Yeah.
child was just like, yeah, she was insufferable.
Yeah,
But I
know,
really
miss-
hated Brady the
miss that
most. I
too.
thought Brady was
miss
just a
that
huge
too.
prick.
I missed that too. Like this narrator, every time like she talked, I kind of like tuned out. Like that's what
I got
like because it didn't make any sense. So then my brain was just automatically like shut off, and then I just wasn't.
I just accepted. I was
It
just
sounded like
I
Laura
understand, like,
Ingalls Wilder to me every
So,
time.
so I looked
Yeah.
her up
Oh,
on
yeah, it was so-
IMDb.
it
I
was
looked her up
odd.
on the IMDb. This actress who is the narrator is still alive. Recently, as of like a couple of years ago, I watched that show, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I don't know if anybody else has watched it. It's a hilarious show. She plays the lead's mother from the show. There you go, Betsy. That's the same look I gave my wife when I looked it up yesterday too. Like, what? Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to look her
Okay,
up.
that
Yeah,
explains
look
a
her
lot.
up because it's hilarious because she's this pushy type character, and then I hear her narrating in this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's this same fucking thing. So it's
That's so
perfect.
funny.
Yeah.
She's been typecast for the rest of her life.
Interesting.
Huh.
And she has to be like pushing 80, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
unless
yeah. She's pushing 80
Unless she was
something.
way younger, unless she was like a young person with old lady voice, that's it too.
Happens.
Like if she was a
Yeah.
young person with old lady voice, there occasionally be
Like Natasha Lyonne.
Natasha Lyonne is a perfect example of young with an old lady voice. Yes, perfect,
Almost
Perfect.
Dr. Girlfriend
perfect example
from Venture Brothers.
perfect example.
Oh,
Okay.
my
But like her accent is old school New York and
Oh,
everything.
oh,
Like that
she
is
has a great voice.
that is
I love her
prime
voice. But that's
example
like
of young
the
person with
only
old lady voice.
example I
Natasha
can
Lyonne.
think of.
Like holy shit, nailed it though.
Oh, I
was-
mean, a sad thing though.
Julia?
So the guy who played Brady, the kid who played Brady, he actually died at like age 37, 38 back in 2009. He had like a congenital heart defect. And
Aw.
Corey Haim also died around that same time from
I had to ask him, like, I was like, "Is Corey Haim died, right? Like, then he died?" And he
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah." And I was
Yeah.
like,
That
"Yeah,
poor
it's a fucking
dude,
bummer."
man.
Like,
What a
Yeah, man.
so
you can't quite
sad.
see your face. It's a bit of a glare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I knew it, but like, I just needed like a reassurance because I
I-
feel like sometimes I feel like I'm the oldest bitch walking, because everybody, because everybody I like fucking died. So sometimes I feel like
But
I'm the oldest
but I
bitch
have to
walking.
ask, in terms of Corey characters, this character or his character from Lost Boys, who would you pick?
In what
Only
sense?
what with?
In
Yeah.
What was the
in-
better role, or who
in,
did
in
you like
terms of
better?
in terms of characters that you like better.
I mean,
Not
It's
like
so
this one
different.
better?
Like he was a little kid. He was like 11 or 12. He was supposed to be 11 or 12. She said it. The narrator said it.
Let's
At
say
the be-
11. Just
All right. And what Corey Haim
in the Lost Boys, he's
is like
probably
15.
what, 14, 15? Yeah.
Yeah, 14,
No, I think
15.
he was still supposed to be around 11 or
He was
12 in
supposed
the
to be
Lost
11
Boys.
or
But like
12.
Lost
Oh,
Corey
really?
was still
Yeah.
tucking him in, and
Yeah, in
you
Lost
know.
Boys, he's supposed to be like
I
11.
thought she was super overbearing, man.
What? I've only seen pieces of the Lost Boys, and I know that Corey Haim was supposed to be like a kid in that. Like he
Okay.
wasn't.
Yeah, so
I
he's
felt like he
11.
was-
Young. He's
So
super
They
let's-
were
young.
let's-
obviously all teenagers.
Like I thought it was obvious that like he was supposed to be a
Let's
kid.
say they're both
Yeah, but
11,
that's a
both
kid,
He
characters.
was getting tucked in, like that tucked in.
Oh
scene.
my
Honestly, I don't
God.
like one more than
How
the other.
old
They
was he
both have their
supposed
pros
to
and
be?
cons.
Wait, your moms didn't tuck you in when you were 15?
No, yeah.
I thought he was an older boy, but he was supposed to be like 10 or 11.
I
I
think
was
my parents
five.
stopped tucking me in when I was like
I
7.
feel like
Okay.
maybe I accepted that when I was a kid.
Were you getting tucked in at like 12? Is that what
Oh, the movie.
I think he
gross,
still
no.
needs you to tuck him in now. I think that's what he's
Yeah.
asking.
God, I'd pay somebody to tuck me in. Fucking lonely over here.
It
It's a whole
feels nice.
different movie.
It feels nice. It feels
So
That's a
nice.
whole
again-
different movie.
again,
yeah.
Do you like him fighting vampires or do you like him fighting werewolves? Which
It just seems like the same character in a lot of ways. It's just one's paraplegic and one's not.
Yeah. I like the Lost Boys better. Obviously, I think it's a much better movie. It's a much better role
Much
for
better film.
Corey. I mean,
Totally.
it basically threw him, into complete stardom. He was already the star, and then he became a superstar after that movie. So I would say Lost Boys, but I liked him in the other one, right? Yeah. So
I only saw pieces of the Lost Boys. I can't. The only thing I know
They both
really
have really good points.
is that Corey Haim was
Yeah.
supposed to be like a child in that
It's hard
shit,
to-
like hanging out with some like older kids, and then homoerotic fucking saxophone sexiness. All right, like yeah, like kind of like gender
Hello.
bending saxophone sweatiness. I remember that a whole bunch, and like that's it. That's what I know about the Lost Boys. There it is.
They
Fair enough. Fair enough. So
I
you're
love
picking
those
this
dollars.
movie.
sweaty gyrations.
Yeah.
that's all I know about it is the
So you're
sexy
picking this
saxophone.
movie then.
And then like Corey Haim is obviously like a young dude hanging around some teenage vampires. Like
Well, that's what we've got to watch that one then sometime and come back because I'd love to talk about that one. That's like one of my favorite '80s movies of all time.
I'll watch that and talk about it with you guys because I
I
have not
love
seen
that
it like
film.
it's in entirety,
that,
and then I can
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that'll be the next one we all get together for.
that
Then.
sexy
Um,
saxophone.
but John Paul, since you brought it up,
Before we,
did
like-
you have a favorite over the two?
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm gonna say this role only because this is a more innocent and more. I feel like his acting is actually better in this movie at playing this character, even though I'm not a huge
But
fan
his
of
acting,
this
I think,
movie.
is better in this. Yes.
Even though I'm not a
Mhm.
huge
Oh,
fan of this
yeah.
movie, I just do think his acting was better. His facial
Yeah.
expressions were a lot better. The way even when he like all the scenes with him and Busey, just back and forth, that's really good acting by both
Yeah.
of them. And for him
They-
being a
yeah,
child
they had
back
a
played
vibe.
off each
They
other.
had a vibe.
they had a great
Yeah,
vibe.
they had a vibe for
And
sure.
that's
Like,
what
and you
really
put
got
Dave
me. I
Bautista
was
in
like,
there.
man,
I
he's
believe
Yeah.
that was him,
Yes.
uncle and nephew.
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
exactly. That's why I was like,
absolutely had a
this
vibe.
was one of his better roles, even though this is again, I don't like this movie. I don't.
Mhm.
But it has its good points.
You know,
They
it
did
has
This
fun,
movie,
but-
it's just horrible.
yeah.
really
No.
well. Like,
I mean,
but
it is
wholesome, but done
cheesy
well.
fun, and it's also one of those. It's hilarious. The last time before actually watching this, this go around and me actually watching it, I was like, I think a year before the pandemic, we went to a haunted house and they had it playing like while you're in line in the background. and like you see all this craziness, and my wife's like, "What is that movie?" I go, "It's Silver Bullet, and I'm gonna make you watch it someday."
Yeah.
So fast forward to like now. So I wouldn't say it was like 3 or 4 years ago, but I mean, again,
Yeah.
pandemic time. I don't know what year it is anymore,
Yeah.
but
Right. Yeah.
but
That's so sick.
you know, it's just like you see some of the really cut scenes of this movie, and while you're in line to get into a haunted house or whatever, you're like, "That's awesome," but then when you like sit down and watch, you're like, "This isn't that good of a movie."
It's an
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
thing. You said, how you mentioned that they had
But I
that
loved
vibe, Gary Busey and Corey
Oh
Haim.
yeah. They were
So
vibing.
Corey and Gary's son Jake got to be really good friends during the filming of this. So I think they actually
Oh.
outside of filming, they were probably also spending sort of like, nephew time because they
Together.
were, with the
Yeah.
kids going fishing and doing kid things. And I'm
That's
sure,
cute.
well,
So,
I'm
like,
not sure, but I would
if
And then
they
assume
shooting up drugs
cultivated
there was
later
a
on, I'm
like a
sure.
real
supervision with Gary.
relationship from this
Mhm.
movie because of his son, like if there was like a real cultivation of a real relationship, like there had to have been, because I felt like I could see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like this director was ass. All right, these transitions from scene to scene, like oh
Yeah.
my god, so clunky and ass. But
It was also
they,
his first time directing a movie. He went back to TV after.
well, no wonder. Well,
Thank
no
God.
wonder it was so clunky. But he did such a good job in conveying all of the wholesomeness of like the good times. Again, the potluck scene, the marching band, the pantyhose, you booger. All right, like the whole, like the wholesomeness just of that era back when the US was Canadian. Like the director just like really like they did it really well. Like that wholesomeness was conveyed. The wholesomeness was conveyed with the relationship between Gary Busey and Corey. Like that came across really good. You know what I mean? There's just every little scene that had like wholesome sprinkles, you could get it. But then like transferring that to like the violence in the book, I could see it, but like you got to get it right in real time.
See, I dug the
and they
clunkiness.
didn't get it right. It was just a little bit too clunky, but like it made it entertaining, but it wasn't good. Like that didn't make it good. It just made it entertaining because it was so clunky.
Hey, Betsy,
I like-
when you guys watched it at this like mausoleum, what was it, more like a general audience that had seen it before and they were just having fun, or was it some other first timers? Could you tell? Were people laughing and having?
People were laughing.
People were laughing. My husband and I were definitely mocking it out loud. So we had talked about the kite scene. The minute we saw his kite with the big smile on it, I was like, in 5 minutes there'll be blood on that kite. And then of course they focus and there's blood on the kite, and I was like,
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, that event, like that whole vibe there, like, there's food trucks, there's alcohol, there's, like it's always going to be a good time. So
That
yeah.
sounds awesome.
See,
Yeah.
Betsy, I thought you just saw this at like a regular movie theater. So like you saw
no,
it at
we
like
were
an extra
outside
special
at
event.
an abbey. So it's
a mausoleum.
like the Green Line Mausoleum.
Oh,
And then they put
neat.
it on their lawn. So right here is like the mausoleum. And then we're sitting down here and we're watching this, and there's a food truck, and yeah, we've been drinking. They had mulled cider. It was a good time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was like party atmosphere and not just like movie theater
in the
like-
graveyard.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we went to go see Nosferatu in like a tiny little like indie theater downtown. All right, like I thought that was going to be more of like a like a party atmosphere. It was very serious. Okay.
It was a theater.
It was very serious.
It was
a
so
theater
cool,
theater.
though.
Right. It was
I
a
loved it.
100-year-old theater watching a 100-year-old movie and everything, making my ass feel like it was 100 years old too. And then like it was very serious.
Live music though.
It was very
Dude
serious.
playing a
scene.
score.
Oh, that's amazing.
I didn't
was
feel
cool.
like I could giggle at that movie. All right. I couldn't laugh at anything that seemed like it was remotely funny.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
very serious. It was a
Listen, we
serious
did-
event. Right.
Yeah.
This
We did it
party.
for,
Like we had a party. Like I want to go watch horror.
we did it for
movies, but
GGG,
yeah.
and unfortunately nobody else got to see this, but my poor husband had to deal with me reading Count Orlok's lines out loud the whole time using this accent.
Yeah.
Like, oh yes, come to my castle.
Come
Oh,
to
yeah.
my castle.
Yeah, let's do
Remember
final
that
thoughts,
song.
and then we can talk about Renfield after. So
Renfield.
final thoughts. Let's start with you, Betsy.
Okay.
Here you go. What are your final thoughts of this 1985 classic Silver Bullet?
This movie doesn't make any sense until it makes sense. And then it's pretty fun. The performances are batty, except for the kids, they're great. And Gary Busey, because he's Gary Buseying all over the place. That's it.
That's it.
All right, Randy, we'll jump to you.
In closing, Your Honor, no, I always enjoyed this movie. Like we talked about earlier, John and I, we saw it on TV, so I didn't see it, the cut that we watched now until I was a teenager. So I appreciated the gore a lot more, obviously, and the special effects. I'm a big special effects guy. I love practical special effects, and it's really, I love. Yeah, we've talked about it before a million times.
We're like,
yeah. But
You go kiss later.
the thing about it is I'm always less and less enthused with it the older it gets. I really think it needs a remake. Like talking about it with you guys, this miniseries idea, if somebody comes across this, make that happen, because it's an amazing property. Call it Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf, and do it the right way, because it has huge potential. But as a story, like Betsy touched on, the kids are great in this. I mean, it shows us that Corey Haim was a great actor. The young lady that played the sister is phenomenal.
Megan follows.
Every time, especially when she's going from shop to shop, getting the bottles and cans and talking to the people. What a great actress as a little kid. I mean, you believed she was looking for that. That eye, and obviously Gary Busey's great. Couple of shout outs to the other actors. I think that they were in a different movie. But I loved what they did too. It's just not a very well done movie, but it's in my rotation. It'll always be, something I watch from year to year, because I've watched it since I was a kid. So that's what I feel.
All right, Char, you're up.
Sure. So like this is an incredible untapped property of Hollywood. That's kind of like what I gathered from it. It really could be something like super huge that you could take in a lot of different directions. And like in a world where we see so many remakes and so many stories being told over and over again, there isn't a remake of this. And like there's a chance for this particular like property to be like really fresh, but also like really current with trends and the way that people like suck down media right now. There are things that this property has that could be just like tapped right into mainline, and it could like run fast, like with the money, like as a mini series, like you could really do it. The performances were all over the place, and like I already told you before that like horror is not my jam, but like all of these all over the place performances is like what made it fun. The melodrama of Bald McConaughey, the kids fucking kicking ass, Gary Busey being just like regular Gary Busey and like making it work, like, oh, the twist, like it totally got me. Like that dude that obviously was a villain was a fucking villain, like it totally
villain.
It totally got me. Like this was a super fun movie, and then like just like the nostalgia, like like sprinkles on top of it, because I'm 43 and I'm looking at a movie that was made in 70 or 80 or 85. About 1976. So like lots of nostalgia sprinkles for me. And then on top of those nostalgia sprinkles, let's do a little sidebar into leather blazers for men. I want to see a more comeback of leather blazers for men. Leather is very, very trendy right now in season for everybody. Give me some motherfucking dudes.
I have
blazers.
I have that brown leather jacket. Can I get it?
Yeah. Randy, go get it. Whip
I'll
that
show
shit
you.
out.
Whip that time, go get it.
Out.
Go get it.
Whip that shit out and rock it. Rock it in public. Rock it at an event confidently. Rock it with a shirt on that you like underneath it, and some proper pants and some fucking cologne that you love, and rock it fucking
Randy, there we go.
Yes,
there we
give
go.
it to me. Leather jacket, 70 Laker realness.
It's a little tight on me nowadays, but
my guy, you got a whole ass sweatshirt on underneath there, my guy. All right, true. Like put a proper shirt on underneath there and rock that mother with confidence. We're bringing back leather blazers for men. All right,
John, your final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. So like, I grew up with this one. I loved it then. I love it now. I can recognize that kid me didn't care about the editing and all that shit. And I like the way it's chunky. I like it. Happiness, kill, happiness, kill, happiness, kill. I liked it. I was like, let's get to it.
Awful.
And like one thing they did in the that differed in the book that I really liked was the girl that was pregnant and trying to kill herself, right? That was not at all what she was about, right? In the book, she was just this lonely, thick girl who wrote herself cards from like members of Kiss and shit, because 1976, and she thought she was dreaming, right? He comes through the window all slow, and then just like it was like almost romantic. Him like is all slow and shit, biting into her and stuff. It's crazy in the book.
Oh
Like
wow.
it's a totally different scene in the book.
This makes me kind of like want to read this book so I can like
It's
see
super
it.
short.
And like if they were
Yeah.
to do some additional things with like this particular property, let me see what the book is talking about, and let's like take it really from there, because now we have things that you could do back then, aren't the same as what you can do right now, just because of preference and
That's the-
it was a lot more conservative back then. The Reaganomics were palpable. You could feel the conservative Reaganomic vibe and the wholesomeness. It felt so like Reagan-y 80s. And like that was cool though. It was a time capsule vibe for that. But like now we can revisit like the property as it was and like yeah.
This is how that scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do it more like the way that like Stephen
Like it
King,
looks almost
intended.
the way it's written, it's
Romantic.
like almost romantic.
Twilight
She's
before
super
Twilight.
lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like good
Not
Twilight.
that I think Twilight's
Twilight
romantic,
was
but
good. It would have been this. Like she's like
Yeah.
fucking into it. After like once she realizes she's not getting out, she's into it. Like it was just a really neat scene in the book.
Neat.
But like this is I love Corey Haim, Pre-Accident Busey. Great performances from both of them. Their vibe was great. I love the werewolf. I know it's a grizzly bear looking motherfucker. I get it. I still like it.
He just liked it because it was tangible fur that you could touch. He likes, he likes.
I
he
mean,
likes that
the head
practical shit.
he
He likes that practical shit. He likes the
Yeah.
really
that
weird,
practical shit.
weird
He
round.
likes it. He's
But
down
I
with
get,
it.
but like I love the end. We mentioned it earlier when he's turning back. They give a
Yeah.
little nod to the original Wolfman with the fading.
Yeah.
You know how like they would do makeup fade, more makeup fade, and it would all go together. When he was like just his chest up, they totally used that when he was going back to just about all human. It was
Right.
super, super cool. Shout out to the old werewolf, the Wolfman, I should say. I still love this movie, and I'm glad I bought the Shout Factory version.
Nice.
I don't know what that means.
The Blu-ray company, cool artwork and stuff. She don't care.
I'm a music kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny, your final thoughts on this?
Yeah.
So, did you have something, Randy?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I forgot where we were. I apologize. Not in life, just in the
Got it. So even when I watched it younger, I've always thought it was an awful movie, but I've always loved it regardless, because I've always been a fan of awful movies. I love B movies in general. I always thought it was weird that this never became like a cult movie. Like it actually doesn't have a cult following, and I don't understand how it doesn't. I also think it is the worst werewolf ever. Like it is it's not a scary werewolf. Even as a child, this werewolf was not scary to me. I'm like, what is it? A bear that has mange? What happened? It's just awful. But I mean, fabulous performances by Corey Haim and Megan Follows. And it's funny to me, like I didn't realize it was Megan Follows until we were watching it, Green Lawn Abbey. And I don't know how I missed that, because typical white girl, I loved the series Anne of Green Gables, and Megan Follows was the main character in that. And
I'm a black bitch, not like Anna Green Gables.
Okay, I'm sorry. Fair enough. Everybody loves Anne of Green Gables.
Everybody loves
But,
Anna Green Gables.
But I really love it. I enjoy it every time. I think it is a laugh riot. I think I love Char, your take on it. I think you're right. It could have been, well, even back then, it could have been a better miniseries than it was a movie. And now they certainly can do something better with it.
This
And
is an untapped property that somebody needs to get their hands on.
yeah,
That's
that
what
you need to get into this and do it right for sure. And it's funny because like when I was reading about where it came from, Cycle of the Werewolf, I haven't read the book, but when I was also reading other little things like odes to it that are actually callbacks to like way back when original werewolf stories from France and shit, like the whole shooting it, injuring it as a werewolf and it showing up in the man, the legend of it, the silver bullet does come from France as well, melting down stuff to shoot people. And like they really tried, I think Stephen King really tried to throw back to the like old school mythos there into the the France history of that. And it's lost a lot in this movie because it's just so terrible.
That
Right.
is interesting though.
Laugh
Like
at it,
that
but
there's like
some
these
of the-
layers that we didn't get. That's so like
Yeah.
interesting. Like,
But there's some of the best dialogue ever. Like, like that hurt me in my parts.
Yeah, I love that. I love that part. I love that
Shit
part.
that comes out of these people's mouths is just
Oh,
so much fun.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So yeah, I think anybody, whether or not you like horror or gore or not, I think you'll enjoy this if only for the nostalgia, as Shar
totally
mentioned,
agree.
or for the cheese or whatever. It's just a fun ride, and it really should have been taken that way. Like you should go see it in a setting that's fun, whether it's like your house with some drinks and some popcorn, or a crazy movie theater, or the lawn of a mausoleum. Just
So
do
jealous
it.
about that setting.
That is a cool
I'll send you
one
the
of those-
schedule for next year. You guys come visit.
All
All
right.
right. Like we're gonna make that shit happen.
It's one of those comfort movies for me.
Wow.
I always
that's
enjoyed-
something. I didn't know that.
Not like no, like a warm blanket type deal.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
like I
Here,
can
it's
always-
nice.
Yeah,
I've
I
never
just
heard
enjoy
you.
it.
I never heard you even like talk about this. Well, never mind, because he'd be talking about these kind of shits, and I'd be like,
Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, listen,
I'd be like,
it's usual on some things.
yeah. Cause I've been talking to him about clothes and shit, and he'd be like, "Oh, great clothes," So like, it
Yeah,
is.
I'll be like, all right.
It is. Like fashion.
Oh, check out this kitty
Yeah.
on TikTok. Check out this kitty.
Yeah.
Well, John Paul, your final thoughts though.
I mean, my final thoughts are, it's a terrible movie with terrible bad tone, with some good acting here and there, and you brought up the a good point, Jenny. The best way and the only way you really should watch this movie is around this time of year. You get with a group of friends, you get a little tipsy with whatever way you want to, or just a little hyper on caffeine or whatever, and you just enjoy it. You riff it, and you enjoy for the cheese ballness that is this movie, because it's just cheesiness, and then unfortunately, yeah, there's a great story in this, but not in this presentation of it.
Oh,
and
totally.
and I again, I don't like this movie.
really?
And
You don't
I love terrible bad shit.
Oh
As-
my god!
as someone
a
quoted-
revelation.
As someone
You don't
said,
like it?
to me recently, you love bologna cakes.
Yeah.
And I do love bologna cakes, but not this bologna cake.
Yeah.
I like shit like 90210 and Glee and crazy shit and
Well,
different
that
kinds of
explains
horror.
why you don't like this.
And I
Yeah.
I was gonna say
like
wait, I don't
this.
like any of that.
Yeah, that stuff's shit.
and I don't like this. But again, if you get around people and you get a little tipsy and you have fun and you riff this, God, this would be such a fun time.
Yeah.
This would just be because you could just throw little fun lines here and there and just everybody just play off each other. That's what this movie's for. This movie's kind of like an experience, kind of like they do Rocky Horror. You could do that with this. But unfortunately, like you
Following
said,
shit. Why
Yeah.
isn't there one on this
Yeah.
movie though?
I don't know. There really should be.
Yeah.
This is
why is that
It's out of the
exactly? Why
making.
is there no cult
Well,
following? That's
somebody's like, hey, you guys on your channel, like on your like podcast channel. I know that you guys are into TikTok and you guys do things on a TikTok. You could make this a TikTok thing. Like just like and like tie it to your channel. It would be good promo. And I think it would spread because like it's fun. You guys should watch this movie. If you're watching this fucking
I'm gonna
podcast, you
have
should watch
you
it. This
teach
one is
me
good.
TikTok someday so I can
Listen to
understand
this
TikTok.
motherfucker right here. He's down with the kids and TikTok. All right,
Listen, I
I'm
don't know.
married
I don't know
down.
how to use it like Frank
I'm
uses it.
married down. I rob a cradle a little bit. He's a little bit younger than me. He's on TikTok and shit. I am not. So-
I got on TikTok and I've never posted anything on TikTok. I use TikTok to watch celebrities, enjoy Betsy's beautiful poetry from when she was in 8th grade,
That's fun. We need
You
to
don't
give
watch
this
my
movie a little
videos?
bit of a
and
cult
watch
following on
and
TikTok.
watch Randy open toys and Blu-rays.
Right.
That's what TikTok's used for. But
Uh-huh.
but TikTok should be used for promoting this wonderful podcast, because this has been another wonderful time here at What the Fuck Did I Just Watch?
Agreed.
You know, I want to thank all of you, Randy, Char, John, and Betsy, and my wonderful co-host Jenny. Thank you again, everyone. We always enjoy new guests and old guests, so you guys are welcome to join us. We even take submissions, so if you want to serve us, trust me, we've been served lately.
I'm gonna serve you guys here in a bit. Stay
You take-
tuned.
Oh, stay tuned. There's a tease.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
But yeah, I want to say thank you. And Jenny, anything else?
No, just, if you want to join us, let us know. And this is the wildness that you could be part of. So yeah, thanks everyone. Always a pleasure. And with that, good night.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.